What's up, world? Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. Happy New Year and all that good stuff. Um, I ain't gonna even front. This ain't the fronting show. Uh, just rushed up in the studio. Y'all know what this is for me. If you know me, if y'all been paying attention to anything that I do and have done over the past 6 years, you know what today is for me. Uh, every fifth of the month, uh, I do this thing called grilling, chilling, and community building. And I do this thing every fifth of the month because 6 years ago, today, um, January 5th, 2015, bandits showed up to my home and robbed and murdered my firstborn child. Uh, at that time, my one and only son, Life Lazarus Coleman. And I recently moved back to Tampa, as you may know. I mean, I know, you know what I'm saying? I keep assuming, like, I'm very popular and everybody knows me. So let me say that I just moved back to Tampa from South Florida and remodeled and got the lane. So my address uh, was formerly named for me formerly named Jefferson Street. We call it Young Life Lane now, and those of us who know affectionately call it the lane. So remodeled on the lane, and this is my first time being on the lane all day for grilling, chilling, and community building on January 5th since 2016. So I'm still organizing in my head as we sit down together to do this thing. But I'm ready. I just want to let you know, like my the producer is a great DJ A, and A is on top of her game. She, as a matter of fact, she's the reason why this is coming off as smoothly as it is right now. Uh, and but yeah, so this show is dedicated to young Life Lazarus Coleman, uh, born 1996, May 7th, 1996, murdered on January 5th, 2015. And I want to open the show with a quote. Not so much a quote. I guess it is a quote. I was gonna say it's a proverb, but it's a quote. As a matter of fact, it's uh, an edit, a variation, if you would, to this quote. I believe the guy attributed credited for saying this is Marcus Aurelius, like some Roman war hero. Y'all might have heard of him through movies like Gladiator, etc. He had wrote some pretty good stuff for those of us who are politically oriented, like uh, self-governing oriented, warfare oriented, etc. Marcus Aurelius said, I'll tell you what he said, then I'll give you my variation. Marcus Aurelius is credited with saying that, oh, I might not even know his quote because I've used my own thing for so long, but he said something to the effect that what's bad for the beehive cannot be good for the bees. My take on it, this discussion is centered along more along the lines of my adaptation of that quote, which is, what is bad for the bees cannot be good for the beehive. And so that's, if you've been following the Life Malcolm show, I think this is our sixth episode. So welcome to, like, the sixth episode of the show. If you haven't watched the show or listened to the show, this is the first time catching it, you can go back to listen to previous versions on www.intouchnews.com. Also, I should say, you can call in right now at 813-444-9588. I think, man, like I feel rusty. Like every week for a minute, I was rattling that off. I had to. Is that right? 948, 95. Yeah, okay. I hit it on the. Yeah, I got it right. 813-444-9588. Y'all can call in, man. Tell me how you doing. 2021. Tell me what you think about the things we will say over the course of this program. I have not shared a lot of these ideas that I will share in this program since since I had to kiss my baby's face for the last time and bury him. However, I've never had such an opportunity, and I ought to say I'm very grateful to have this platform, this 1 hour with you, and I I want to hopefully leave this hour having said things that I've been wanting to say for a very long time, not just to get it off my chest, but also to help us move forward in a way that until now I had not been able to organize, because every time, up until now, every time I've said something about this awful circumstance, I was either in front of an audience to which I had an audience I had to consider, whose thoughts, proclivities, inclinations, etc. I had to consider, like a live audience, namely the spoken word events. And if not that, I was in formal interviews with television programs, radio shows, newspaper entities. And so I had to be mindful of that as well. And uh, the other the other place I found myself having some discussion about this thing was, in a court type setting, either with or a legal setting, either with detectives or in a courtroom, lawyers, stuff like that. But for the first time, I just it's just me and the microphone on a forum that I control. And that's not to say that I'm in control of the platform. It's In Touch controls the platform. And nothing I say, I don't know how the disclaimers go, but nothing that I say is necessarily a reflection of the thoughts of the promoters, producers, the forum controllers, and all that. But this little hour of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Y'all heard that song, something like that. I have adaptations to gospel songs too, if you didn't know. Yeah, this little hour of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. On January 1st, 2015, I celebrated my 40th birthday. It was like the happiest day of my life. Just before that, I think it was the Tuesday prior to that, myself and another spoken word artist, whose birthday is on December 30th. The only reason why I'm not saying his name right now is because I don't know how much he wants to be affiliated with the topic. But many of y'all know the birthday show was a very popular thing in the poetry community. It was one of the spoken word's biggest events for years, and so I had this birthday show. I mean, it was a big deal, man. Bullwinkle, Bishop Bullwinkle came through. Rest in peace, as they say, to Bishop Bullwinkle. If y'all don't know who Bishop Bullwinkle is, you should know. Bishop Bullwinkle had that hit song, Hell No, to the No, No, No. And Bishop, when he was alive, would tell you that he got his start, and he's much older than Black on Black Rhyme. His artistry is much older than Black on Black Rhyme. But when he said to people that he got it started Black on Black Rhyme, I inferred that Bishop Bullwinkle meant Black on Black Rhyme was that springboard, that catapult for him, that reignited, reoriented, and com- com- compelled him. I should say propelled him forward, and he came up with a hit song, man. And I, the year my 39th birthday I had, because we did the birthday show each year, and so the 39th birthday was a pretty big deal, as always. And Bishop called me up like, man, how you not gonna have me on the show? I got a hit song out, and I had to be real. I hadn't heard of the song because I wasn't a real radio listener. I had booming music in the Chevy, so I'm always listening to the boom. I had no idea Hell No to the No 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 existed, let alone did I know it was this big hit. And so Bishop was like, yo, man, how you don't have me at the show doing my thing? I got a hit song. I was like, you know, my bad, but I can't get you on the show this year. He was like, all right, well, put me down for next year. And I did. And by this time, Hell No to the No 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 was undeniably, certainly a fad hit song. I mean, I don't know how to categorize it, but it was certainly popular around the world. So, I was surprised Bishop came through and he did. The Beatdown Band provided the backdrop for the music. The spoken word features consisted of many Black on Black Rhyme members and prior Black on Black Rhyme features. And so it was a really super cool event. The place was packed. It was at the Ybor City Jazz House. The venue always made it really easy to have good events there. So this event was huge. And, turning 40, man, it was just like the greatest event of my life up to that point. Young Life helped me set the venue up. The tables, the chairs, the mic stand, positioning, got me right to make sure that we could pull off a stellar event. And I was on that high, man. I was riding that wave on to January 1st, my birthday, and turned 40. All the stuff that came with that, the gifts, the calls, it was just riding a big wave, man. And Young Life came through on the first, shake hands with his pops, hug my neck, have good conversation. He came through on the fourth to the lane, and he was upset about some things that we'll discuss. We'll discuss not so much about. I'm talking about right here in this Life Malcolm show. We'll discuss some of the things that Young Life said. He was really upset, and it's interesting because it was one of the last discussions we had. But his purpose was not to come through and let me know how upset he was. It was to come through and get some advice, some counsel from the old man. And I really thought that was cool. it was evidence that my eldest child, my firstborn son, was coming around, coming into manhood, where he began to balance finding his defining, not just finding, but defining himself in the world enough to be able to maintain his sense of self and still come to the old man and ask for counsel and advice. And so to see that maturity in him developing was encouraging. Man, I was excited about that. And that was on the 4th. That was on the 3rd of January, 2015. And on the 4th, man, I was, running around doing something or the other. Guess that was a Sunday. And got home, still riding that wave, man. Probably still celebrating turning 40. Friends were in and out of town, having a good time. And somewhere around midnight or close to it, I got a knock on the door. And I got the worst news I've ever gotten in my life. And we'll say a bit more about that when we come back. Right? Hey, look, don't be sad. This is not, it's sad stuff, but don't be sad. Like, we just talking, man. We family right now, having a good discussion. And stay tuned on the Life Malcolm Show. We'll be right back.
My show that will be all up in your business. Let's Talk Business with Cheryl J. Cuso. Every Wednesday at 12:31 p.m. My business experts provide insight for business entities and entrepreneurs. So join us every Wednesday from 12:31 p.m. to 1:31 p.m. at www.intouchnews.com. Catch my show.
They're going to bring me a baby brother. We can do this together.
All right, let's go.
Storks know how to keep kids safe. Do you?
What?
Oh my gosh, you don't know.
I know.
You don't. Oh man, you laugh when you're uncomfortable.
No.
Making sure your child is in the right car seat is one of the steps to safer travel.
I will rock this.
You will rock this.
To know for sure that your child is in the right car seat for their age and size, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
Cool. Very cool.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan. We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
How to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you staying tuned in right here to In Touch News, www.intouchnews.com, where everybody is a star, and the biggest star is you. So yeah, I woke up to this awful news. Actually, no, I woke up to this knock on my door. Bam, 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 my bedroom door. And, still kind of sleepy, not really hip to what was going on. Just bam, 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 bam. And so I was like, yo, what's up? My sister answered and said, I think somebody just shot Life. And I was, what? think somebody just shot Life. So I scrambled, put on some pajamas and something I could get outside in quickly, and walked outside to see my boy in bad shape in my front yard. And called 911, called for the ambulance, the EMTs. Didn't want the police there, but the police showed up before the EMTs did. And even though the EMTs right around the corner, the fire truck and the EMT people right around the corner from the house, police showed up first. Showed up hostile, making demands, move away, and all this type of stuff. Of course, we did not do that. The people came, took my boy to the hospital. And so now this is where some of the stuff I've learned kicks in. This is some of the discussion. Oh, let me say that I titled this episode of the Life Malcolm Show, Bandits in the Hood, Part 1. So the discussion is going to focus on bandits in the hood. I shouldn't say focus. It's going to deal with the idea of bandits in the hood. However, I just want to say some things about this experience and this young man that brought me to some of these conclusions I'll share with you about bandits in the hood. So, Young Life was in bad shape in my front yard. And I was, doing the best I could to keep him comfortable, keep him upright. And in that process, got a lot of his blood on me. I was lathered from my fingertips to my elbows in his blood. And pajama bottoms I had, of course, soaked in his blood. And I share that because I know a lot of parents who are in this awful club of parents of murdered children. And there's no experience like bearing a child. And I don't for one second think that one set of circumstances that led to or lead to burying both. I'm saying led or lead to burying a child is worse than another set of circumstances that lead to that outcome. However, there are differences. I know some parents of murdered children who got the news later, after their child was in hospital, maybe cleaned up or something like that. Got the news later. I even have heard some parents say stuff like they can't believe their child is gone, stuff like that. But that wasn't my experience. I could not believe anything about what happened because I was there in it. Like I wanted to make sure you understood how in it I was. But here's some of the things about Young Life that are important to this discussion today. Even being lathered in his blood, pajama bottoms soaked in his blood, knowing he was in bad shape. Young Life, from the time he was born on May 7th, 1996, under very traumatic, maybe not traumatic, but dramatic circumstances, drama. His boy was about drama. I think he was born in like 7.5 months, something like that. I know this. He was 3 pounds, 12 ounces when he was born. Under some serious circumstances, his mother had eclampsia or something like that. They call it preeclampsia, I think it's called. Yeah, preeclampsia. And there's another name I was looking for, hyper something. But anyway, preeclampsia is another name for this, like high blood pressure that accompanies pregnancies sometime. And so she had some serious complications which required the obstetricians to do an emergency C-section and take the child from from the womb. And so the doctor comes. So when I hear the news like that, she's got this preeclampsia condition and it's going to require a C-section. The doctor tells me, the surgeon guy who's going to do the surgery says, so, I mean, in such a matter-of-fact way, he says, with this procedure, the mother can die, the child can die, they both can die, or, one or the other may survive. I'm 21 years old listening to this horrific announcement that I might lose the woman that I loved at that time and this child that I had learned to love over the course of the 7.5 months there. This thing was hard and heartbreaking, right? I remember being in tears. This is back in the days of pay phones, before people really had cell phones like that, still beepers. And I was on a pay phone in the hospital with my mother just bawling. And the baby might die, the mother might die. And then the doctor came out and was like, yo, he survived, the mother survived. We're going to have to keep him a little while until he gains 4 ounces because we can't let him go home until he's 4 pounds. And so I was in the hospital every day feeding this little 3 pound. I could fit him right in just his legs hung over just a little past the palm of my hands and his head just a little above my fingers. And I would feed him every day because he wouldn't take the bottle or the food from other people. So, we needed him home. So I would feed him, and he finally gained 4 pounds and came home. And that seeing him survive that ordeal, and seeing him get, strong enough or fat enough, right? 4 pounds, fat enough, 4 ounces bigger, fat enough to come home, I guess began my hopefulness, my optimistic outlook on the world. And it that outlook, that optimism remains to this day. And after seeing this young man in bad shape, bad shape, blood everywhere, stuff like that, we get to the hospital. And this lesson that this boy taught me 18 years earlier, Young Life was 18 when the bandits came to my house and murdered him. 18 years later, this optimism was still alive in me. And so when this neurosurgeon comes to me and says, the wound that your son has a mortality rate of 99%, my response was, well, given the 1% he survives, what are we looking at? And his response was, well, let me say it differently. I'm 100% sure he will not survive. And still wasn't convinced. So I asked him to bring the x-rays, the ultrasounds, whatever images they'd done. Probably not ultrasound, but CT scans and the x-rays. And so they brought that stuff, and I had a physician with me at the time, and I know enough about some of that to make sense of those images too. And it was real to me at that point that if he did survive, if Young Life did survive, he would have not been able to do much for himself. And so they the neurosurgeon asked me if I wanted to walk back there to see the young man, and I was like, yeah. So I walked back there, and he's hooked up to all this stuff, and knowing that he only had a 99% mortality, less than a 0% chance at this point. I mean, I'm hearing this now. No chance of surviving. I asked, man, why is all this stuff still hooked up? And the neurosurgeon said to me, well, we're just waiting for you to say, turn it off. And I said, well, turn that stuff off then. Not stuff. I said what it sounded like I was about to say. I said, well, turn that stuff off then. And then I thought for a second and said, well, wait a minute. Maybe his mother would like to say some kind of goodbye. And we went and got them and brought them in the room, unplugged the machine, and I suctioned the blood from my young son's mouth while he breathed his last breaths. And as he struggled for the very last 2 or 3 breaths, pulled that thing out of his mouth, wiped his mouth, and kissed his face, and got to work. And I'll tell you about the work when we get back to the Life Malcolm Show, right here in Touch News, where everybody's a star.
Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard, so you don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
You just need feedthepig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
All right. Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show, right here on InTouchNews.com. Y'all can call in, man, for real. This is a show you can call in to, 813-444-9588. Please call in with questions, comments, what have you. So, like I said, man, pull the plug, suction the blood from my baby's mouth, and kissed his face for the last time, and then got to work. You might say, well, what is the work? Well, since 2002, in this community, I've been working to do everything I could, still, man, doing everything I can to make our community the best place it could possibly be in this United States of America for African people. That means standing up, finding ways to defend us, to protect us, to organize us. Been doing that. And it started with Jennifer Porter. Y'all might remember who that person is. Jennifer Porter murdered 2 African children. I'm looking for some stuff like I'm gonna clue people, connect people if I can. So I'm doing. I told you I'm a lot of running around for me today, but I'm not. This thing don't say nothing about what I'm about to tell you. But I remember this vividly. Bryant Wilkins and Durante Caldwell were their names. Lisa Wilkins's children, and unfortunately, I don't remember the two children who survived. I guess probably, not probably, certainly equally as important. But I do remember that this white woman ran over these four of Lisa Wilkins's children, and killed the oldest child, Bryant Wilkins, and I believe it was the youngest boy, but certainly younger than Bryant, Durante Caldwell, killed them. And there's this tragedy. She left the scene, hit and ran him over in the street right there on 22nd Street near the University Area Community Center. No arrests, none of that. And so went on this huge, under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru Movement, myself and others in the city connected with those organizations I just mentioned, organized demonstrations and protests. And I had a Chevy Tahoe at the time and put a big banner across the back of those cargo doors on the Chevy that said, why, with her picture, Jennifer Porter's picture, and said, why isn't this white woman in jail? And we staged numerous demonstrations and protests in front of the courthouse and other important areas like the University Area Community Center, the Sheriff's Department, police departments, etc. I was there for that. When Lawrence Storer, an Asian guy who used to own this place called Simo's Thai Restaurant, ran over and killed Shantavius Wilson over on Franklin Street because Shantavius allegedly stole something like $5.20-something in change. And this Asian guy got in his SUV and ran him over and went to court, didn't serve a day in jail or prison. I was there, leading organized demonstrations, protests, etc. When the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department killed Marquel McCullough in 2004, I was there, in front of demonstrations on bullhorns, with the community, with the family. Same thing with Gerald Walker in Pinellas County. We called him Jay Brick, the Walker family. I mean, I'm still connected to the Walker family. I was there when the police chased down Rat. That's what we called him in the hood, Rat. Name was Shannon Wiggins. But when they killed Rat, man, chased him down until he crashed into some street poles and bragged about it. I was there, at the funerals, at the family, you all the time, constantly there. Javon Neal, JJ, what was that? I think 2012, something like that. 2012, when these thug cops, these thug police ran up in, was it Central Court Apartments, I think it's called, and killed this young man. I was there, the funerals, the families, and a lot of them in between that I can't, it's too many to really name in this time. We don't have enough time, but this is the work that I was used to doing because I was tied to organization, a part of organization, African revolutionary theory and practice guided, and still does, but at that time guided everything that I do. So when this awful thing happened to my son, to my family, all I knew was how to get to work, how to apply what revolutionary organization instilled in me, give the situation some revolutionary analysis, African working class revolutionary analysis, and come up with some real world African revolutionary working class solutions. And so we got to work. But of course, prior to doing that work, or I shouldn't say prior, along with doing that work, we had to also do the work of burying this young man. And Young Life, I want to put a picture up of Young Life, man. Young Life wanted to be just like his father. He was in the band. He knew I was in the band. And he was in the band. And he also knew I was a poet. And I think that band he was in was the Middleton Marching Band. You know, you could see him on the drums. And he was also hip to the fact that I was a poet. I did poetry. And he did poetry himself, even won some contests. And so, you know, the young man wanted to follow in the footsteps of a guy he saw doing work, and the work I'd done had afforded us a certain kind of a popularity in our community and in our circle. And man, upon the advent of this murder, this tragedy that afflicted our community so much, the outpouring of love and support was unbelievable, overwhelming. Tens of thousands of dollars poured in from all around the country and several places around the world. There might even be, I think there's a picture of the church, the funeral. This boy was 18 years old, young man, 18 years old. Thousands of people, hundreds of people, over 1,000. Not, I shouldn't say thousands, but over 1,000 people, hundreds of people, over 1,000 people flooded this church. People who wanted to attend, who got there too late, couldn't come. There was no place to park for blocks. Some people said they had to walk a mile just to get to the church. The overflow was filled. It was at New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. Larry Roundtree, the pastor, was super cool, allowing us to have this event on Sunday, like where most churches have Sunday service. Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and the African Socialist International, spoke, did the eulogy, if you will. The Beatdown Band members, Marcus Vance and Average Joe, performed. This was a big deal. Young Life was a significant African in our community, and I'm sure it's because he'd seen an example in his father and what we could do. We got to go to a break, but we'll come back. I'm gonna finish talking about Young Life and in that context, and then we're gonna close up with a little bit about these bandits. That's gonna lead us to our part 2 discussion next week. But stay tuned. The Life Malcolm Show, man. Give me a ring. 813-444-9588.
In Touch Radio.
This is Joel Sylvain
and Kevin Carr,
and we're with Power Moves, where celebrities, athletes, key influential executives,
influencers
share how they make money, how they attract power, and how they earn respect. Come join us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Power Moves
on In Touch Radio.
Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer? I got the man to do the legwork for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen or sun down 184-361. 361 Rick. That's 184-361-7425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361 Rick. Call Ricky, ask Ricky is a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361 Rick. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
Yeah. Thank you for staying tuned to the Life Malcolm Show. Appreciate it so much. So like I said, man, we've done some work in this community that made myself and Young Life well loved. You saw the church picture. Also used to do this spoken word event. I told you about, the one where I had the birthday party and all that. The event continued, and I mean it was a packed crowd of people who to show their love would throw them L's up, and so I mean this young man and was well loved, and I was well loved, and it may still be, right? But it was because of the work, not because I'm some kind of special person. But let me say this. Here's what organization played a critical role in my response to the murder of my son. I ain't break down. I used to go to a lot of funerals after Young Life was murdered, to see how parents, particularly fathers, dealt with burying their sons. And I would see them in bad shape, buckled over, bawling, crying, sobbing, slobbing, what have you. And I understand why. Believe me, I do. And I would say a lot of part of that reason why is because they weren't organized. And I say that because I know that's the only reason why I wasn't like that. I could have become a shell of myself, a shadow of myself. I could have been in bad shape too. But organization, being an organized African, helped me understand that this was a contradiction that needs resolution. And as a scientist, as a revolutionary, as an African working class revolutionary, it's my responsibility to deal with it. And so, I began right away to understand that although nobody except for the bandits who murdered Young Life are responsible for his murder, there are things that we as a community could do, not for Young Life, because I was already drafted into this awful club of parents of murdered children, so there was nothing I could do to get out the club. Once you're in the club, ain't nothing you could do to get out the club. It was my job, though, at that point in time as an African revolutionary to come up with something to help other parents avoid being snatched into this awful club. Don't nobody want to be in this club. And so what I came to, based on theory, observation, participation, etc., was that these bandits who murdered my child gave our community an incredible opportunity to say to our community, to those bandits in particular, and to the rest of the world, bandits with badges and bandits without badges, that this type of banditry is not acceptable. It's not because I was special, Young Life was special. It's just because of the work, the name, the face, the news. It was all. It made the issue. It put the type of banditry that we see in our community every day. My son's murder put the type of banditry that we see in our community every day on Front Street in undeniable headlines and highlights, and it gave our community an incredible opportunity to do something to those bandits that would send a message, a reverberating message to those bandits and everybody else in our community, and perhaps even around the world, that such banditry was not allowed in our community. What's not good for the bee is not good for the beehives. And I remember when Dante Morris stood up for himself against the colonial army, the police, when he stood up for himself on in 2010, June 29th, something like that, 2010, stood up for himself, defended his life against these police, killed 2 of them. The police made it clear. I mean, they ran ramshot through the hood and made it clear that it was unacceptable to do harm to their team. And my son's murder, because of the work we had done as a family connected and politically tied to the African community in Tampa, because of this work, because this thing was so big, so popular, it was an excellent opportunity for us to seize, to show bandits here and abroad, bandits with badges and without, that this type of banditry is unacceptable in our community. All we had to do was eliminate the bandits. You eliminate the bandit, you eliminate the banditry. And instead, and that's not to say that, again, the first thing I said was, man, there was so much love, so much outpouring of love and gifts and kindness, and that's good, but it was that was only good for me, but not good enough to protect the community. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You look at the stats. 2015, the murder rate, in 2016, the murder rate was higher than it was in 2015, and I knew it would be, because our community let these bandits who murdered my son walk around like living permission slips to do this kind of stuff to our community. These bandits have never once apologized. They know where I live. They came to my house and murdered my son. They know exactly where I live. They never came to my house one time and said, Mr. Life, Big Life, forgive me, I'm sorry. And you know why? It's because they have no remorse. They have nothing but contempt for our community. If they're not our enemy, they behave like our enemy. And it's our responsibility as a community to eradicate, eliminate those persons who operate as agents of our enemy or as our enemy themselves. And we did not seize that opportunity. And since then, I mean, even I got to go to a funeral this weekend because this type of banditry persists in our community, and nobody can convince me that had we seized the opportunity to make a statement, a brash and bold and brazen statement to the bandits who dared come to my home and murder my child, that type of thing was unacceptable, then so many other parents who are now in this club with me would not enjoy this same misery as I. But I'm an optimist. All hope is not lost. You know who those bandits are. And the work is still the same. The political significance my son has is still the same. Look, I just graduated law school. My son could have been a lawyer. I mean, he was on his way. You know, he was doing lawyerly stuff. I mentioned earlier, oratorical contests, poetry, and what have you. There's an orator. Every now and then he could get sharp and, look like he was ready to be a lawyer. And I say that because like I said, he saw me in band. He was in band. He saw me doing poems. He did poems. I went back to school just to show him an example of academic excellence, and he would have observed that example and put it into play even before I showed him that I could graduate law school. He was lighting the path for me to do so, and he could have been a potential lawyer. But now, it's all just hopes and dreams. However, I'll say this. Even in his early birth, and his life, in his death, in his murder, he still teaches me and guides me and makes me better. Young Life does. And he still makes our community better. Every 5th of the month, since January 5th, 2015, every 5th of the month, not one, we haven't missed one. Every 5th of the month, we do this thing called Grilling, Chilling, at Community Building. And a lot of people gather in front of the house where Young Life was murdered. And every 5th of the month, we get there. And I like I said, I had to get to work. You know, it wasn't about just the tragedy that happened. It was about stopping this thing from happening to others in our community. And so I created this thing called Grilling, Chilling, the Community Building under the leadership of the Black People's Advancement and Defense Organization. And its purpose is to bring young people under the guidance and example of older people. And it worked, man, for a long time. We started, like I said, in 2015, and it still continues to this day. I had to leave, of course, for a few years, and without the organizational leadership I brought to the function, it wasn't. It's not quite the same as it was. But what I can tell you about Grilling, Chilling, and Community Building, for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018, we did not lose one person who came to Grilling, Chilling, and Community Building. Not one young person on the lane did we lose to murder or to the penitentiary. Not one. And that's something to be said about that. In a community where murder happens weekly, if not close to daily. So Grilling, Chilling, and Community Building is an entity that people have in our community been able to support and use as one way of offsetting this kind of banditry that brought us to this discussion. However, I want to tell you, there's nothing in the world that you can do to send a better example to bandits with badges and bandits without badges, that this type of thing is unacceptable in our community, than to do something to them when you see them, to help. When I say do something to them, I mean give them some real good political education. That's what we're talking about. Get their attention. Bring their the awfulness of their banditry to their full attention as best you can with vigorous political education, so that we can eliminate that. Prayer vigils, candlelight vigils, taking people's guns and all this. That's not going to do it. We got to make them know that they're going to pay a consequence, an incredible price whenever they come around and do that kind of stuff in our community. I think I only have maybe 90 seconds left, so I'm going to say I appreciate people listening to this discussion, and I hope I said something helpful. Next week, we're going to talk about Bandits in the Hood Part 2. That same week, I had to pull the plug on my son. I had to go to court. Like, I left the hospital after I pulled the plug and kissed my baby's face and went into court because these other bandits were trying to put me in prison for 7 years. And we're going to talk about those bandits in Part 2. But on this day, I want to say I remember the name of Young Life Lazarus Coleman. I appreciate you so much for your leadership in birth and death and throughout your very short life. And may a horde of bees visit the funerals of your murderers. Until next time, y'all, this is the Life Malcolm Show. And we'll talk again, to be continued.